This time around, we're going to be focusing on the topic of media effects, particularly how the perspectives on media effects have changed over time. We'll look at the origins, we'll look at some early perspectives that have, well, were developed without much research behind them, and then we'll look at the ways in which research informed our ideas over the last century or so. So first thing off, we have to focus on World War I. The reason for that is there was a lot of propaganda being used during that time period. Posters, flyers, even radio messages were being used at that time, and it led people to start to be concerned or wonder about the potential effects that these messages might have on the public. And that led to the idea that maybe we should research this and figure out the way in which these messages are affecting the public at large. Before the research was done, there were some early assessments suggesting that the media were super powerful. That led to an idea here that suggests that media messaging, like this purple hypodermic needle here, would just be pumping ideas into the brains of the public, and the public would just take them in and it would change them. The all-powerful media perspective. This is evident in phrases like the bullet theory or hypodermic needle theory. These theories aren't developed out of research. They're developed out of supposition and speculation and probably persuasion, an attempt to try to push the idea that these media messages are super powerful. Well, from that position, we have to recognize a couple of things that are flaws in this logic. The first one has to do with ideas about what these audiences are like. So the first one is that the audience is passive. And the assumption is that we're just sitting there or standing there and we see a message in a poster or a flyer. It goes into our brains and boom, we're changed. We don't have any influence on what it is we're attending to, on how much we're going to look at it, whether we're going to consider any arguments in it, just a passive repository for new media information. So that's something that we can pretty much just rule off. Silly idea, right? Here's another one. It's an extension of this. Hey, our own personal experience, isn't that likely to have some kind of impact on the way the media might affect us? How about our intelligence or our original opinions or just our personal experience in life? All of these things have some impact on the way the media messages are coming in and being received by us. So this early ideas about all-powerful media were unfounded for a variety of reasons. One, not backed by research. Two, some faulty assumptions going into it. So from that period of World War I on through the 1950s, we did actually start getting some media research being done, most of it focusing on politics. And this next period is going to be described as sort of a, let's just say, limited effects period. The perception then kind of changed and said, well, no, those faulty assumptions, that faulty idea of the all-powerful media is really wrong. What we have here is something like a two-step flow more often. Two-step flow concept suggests that social factors are the things that will influence us more than the media messages themselves. Well, what are some of the social factors? Well, the research that was out there focused on the idea that there are opinion leaders in our society. People like politicians, certainly, mayors in a community, commissioners in a community, but not necessarily politicians. Could be people like a business leader or a religious leader. That those people will take information from the mass media and then they interact with the public, and that's where the public is going to be getting their ideas about what to think and how to behave and that kind of thing. So this is a two-step level, media messaging to opinion leaders, then to the public, and it suggests a limited effects model. So that's where we were in the 1940s, 50s. But as we've continued to look at this during that time period, we started to develop some different ideas. And that leads us to the precursor to where we are today. And essentially, the foundation of where we are today is in an area called cumulative effects. The idea here is that the media will influence us, but over time, not necessarily through opinion leaders, but we might be affected directly by it. But it's not an immediate, like a hypodermic needle or bullet. It's something that leads to multiple exposures, and the multiple exposures create new ways of thinking about the things that are happening in our worlds. And the effect can be powerful. So this map over here is a traditional sort of semantic concept map, and it's just here to identify the way in which we might have new concepts being introduced by media. They affect our ideas. Maybe it's added to our understanding. Then we develop some associations with those new concepts. Maybe we have some of those concepts already in our minds, and our exposure to media messages end up building stronger connections between those different concepts, or building new connections among a variety of other concepts. So this cumulative exposure model is really built on the cognitive psychology that was happening during the 1960s, 70s, 80s. And it's a very important one that we use today to think about the way we engage with media messages. So our early days, all-powerful media effects like a bullet theory, not based on research, but just supposition or speculation. Middle period, a limited effects concept. The two-step flow is the example. Media go to opinion leaders influence the society. To today, where we have a, yes, potentially powerful media, but one that is going to be influencing people through multiple exposures over time. So that's the development of our perception of media messaging and its effects.